Hello and welcome back to Jules Math Tools, where math is made easy. Made easy. In our session today, we are now working with our fractions involving PEMDAS, and we have several operations going on today in this question. But if you want to see how you can solve this like a pro, let's get started. In the question that we're working with today, we have our division sign outside of our parentheses, and in our parentheses itself, we have two operations that are working as well. Now, the good thing about these operations that we have within our parentheses is that we're adding and subtracting. And the good thing about adding and subtracting fractions is that all we need to do is find the LCD, convert our fractions to their equivalent form, and then we can work out the addition and subtraction at the same time. So we are going to begin by working out our 3/5 that's being added to our 5/6 and then subtracting our 1/3. And just like I told you earlier, we're going to find the LCD of these numbers in our denominator, which is 5, 6, and 3. So the LCD just means that I'm looking for a lowest common multiple of these three numbers that they both have in common. So a multiple that comes to mind when I think about 5, 6, and 3 is 30. And the reason I thought of 30 is because 5 times 6 is 30, and then 3 times 10 also gives us 30. So that makes the LCD of 30 a good common multiple for all three of these fractions. So now that we have our LCD, we're now going to begin by converting these fractions to their equivalent forms where all of them now have the same denominator of 30. So when looking at 5, I know that 5 times 6 gave me 30. So I will now multiply 3 times 6, which will equal to 18. Next, I'm going to do the same thing with 6. 6 times 5 will equal to 30. So I will multiply 5 times 5, which will equal to 25. And then for 30, for 3, I know that 3 times 10 gives me 30. So I will also multiply 1 times 10, which will equal to 10. So now that all of my fractions are converted to their equivalent form, remember we are still applying our rules for PEMDAS. And again, depending on who may have taught you all of operations, you may think that you can work the subtraction first and then add, but remember that PEMDAS tells us that with addition and subtraction, same thing with multiplication and division, we always work from the left to right. And since my addition operation is first, I'm going to add 18 and 25, which will equal to 43. And we're going to keep that denominator of 30. And then we'll subtract 10/30 from our 43, which will equal to 33/30. And of course, I'm not going to change my fraction, but I am going to simplify it in this step. Now, to simplify a fraction, remember that we need to find a common factor or a common number that we can divide both 33 and 30 by without leaving a remainder. And in looking at 33 and 30, I know that both of these numbers are in the 3 time table, which means that both of them can now be divided by 3. So when I divide 33 by 3, I will get the quotient of 11, and 30 divided by 3 will equal to 10. Now I'm going to plug my 11/10 as it is back into my question. Remember that the next operation that we're working with is division. So if you were thinking about converting 11/10 into a mixed fraction, you know that that would not be a wise step if we are dividing fractions next. And we know that when dividing fraction, if we have a mixed fraction, that fraction would then have to be converted into an improper fraction. So because our fraction already is an improper fraction, we will leave it as is and then proceed to our division. And remember that when applying your rules for division, we still apply our good old-fashioned keep, change, and flip rule. So we're going to keep our 1/8 exactly the same, change my division to multiplication, and then I'm going to flip or take the reciprocal of my second fraction. So now that I have done that step, in this step, you can either decide to simplify a fraction here, or you can just multiply a fraction and then simplify afterwards if need be. So let's multiply. So we have 1 times 10 is equal to 10. And then I have 8 times 11, which is equal to 88. And now to simplify this fraction, I do need to find a common factor of both 10 and 88. And because both 10 and 88 are even numbers, I know that both of these numbers can now be divided by 2. So 10 divided by 2 will equal to 5, and 88 divided by 2 will equal to 44. And since 5 and 44 does not have any common factor, then this would be our answer in its simplest form, which is 5/44. Okay, so there you have it. We just calculated another question involving PEMDAS. And even though this one seems extremely difficult by looking at the question, remember that once you know your rules for adding, subtracting, and dividing fractions, you're just going to apply those rules as you work through your question. And as always, remember to get some additional practice in, and we'll see you right here in the next session on Joe's Math Tools, where the aim is always to make math easy.